Nolan Wells audio distress call. Is it real? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Everyone in the background is saying, "Is he dead? Nolan, wake the up."
Claiming they're sinking and calling for help. And yet in the background, are we really hearing all of this other activity?
Nobody has ever, none of the kids on this boat have ever admitted that anybody said that they thought Nolan was dead.
No one will make it out of this call sounding the same. An audio distress call. Is it real? Good evening, and thank you for being with us tonight. Because right now, all over the internet, people are listening to the same 12 seconds of audio over and over, convinced they're hearing something they were never supposed to hear. In the background, a 911-style Marine emergency call. Some swear you can hear voices saying, "Is he dead?" Others swear you can hear Nolan's name. Wake up. They're sinking. They're calling for help. And underneath all of it, is there really other activity happening in that background? Or are we hearing exactly what we want to hear? Here's what we know for certain. Not one of the kids on that boat has ever admitted on the record that anybody on board said they thought Nolan was dead. Not one. Let's play it. Listen closely.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
Hey.
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right. Well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir.
I don't know the phone number. It's either. I think it's. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag on
Unless you
here.
have a membership number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
That's it. That's the recording. And that is the boat. Nolan Wells was on the day he disappeared from Horn Island. Now understand something. This isn't a leak clip. This isn't something pulled off TikTok or Instagram by an armchair investigator with theory. This audio was released directly by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. It is official. It is real. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. A boy is missing from that call. A boy who never made it back. And in the days since, the story of exactly how that happened has only gotten messier. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old. Everyone who knew him describes him the exact same way, almost word for word, like they rehearsed it. Except they didn't. He was like a brother. He lit up every room he walked into. On the 4th of July, he rode out to Horn Island on a boat called the Triton, one piece of a much bigger holiday crowd. Somewhere between 10 and 16 friends, spread across a couple of boats, out there to have a good time. And at some point, that group started heading home. And Nolan didn't go with them. One friend sat down and gave his account. Around 3 p.m., he says, was the last time he personally laid eyes on Nolan, sitting on the beach next to a girl named Katie, laughing, shaking his head. The friend says he called out to him. Not once, multiple times. Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. He says at least 5 people heard it happen. He insists that riding out to Horn Island with one group and riding back with another is completely normal out there, that he personally could name 50 other people who did the exact same thing that same day. In his telling, nobody left Nolan behind. Nolan chose to stay. It's a clean story. It's a confident story. It's consistent detail for detail. But it isn't the only story. Another friend, when asked directly about that same account, said something that stopped investigators cold. It didn't sit right with him. He said that Nolan he knew didn't just peel away from the group like that. Not without a word. Not without a plan to get back. That contradiction has been sitting inside this case since day one, and it hasn't gone away. If anything, new reporting has only sharpened it. The friend who says he called for help says he phoned the Coast Guard directly, stayed on the line roughly 20 minutes, gave a full description of what Nolan was wearing, the last known location, the condition of the water. Better safe than sorry, he says. He says he called Nolan's mother, Christine, right afterward, told her he'd made contact with the Coast Guard, and that she was going to try the Department of Marine Resources or the Sheriff's Office next. On its face, that sounds like exactly what a good friend does in a scary moment. And to be clear, nobody is disputing that a call to the Coast Guard was made, or that it lasted the length of time he describes. The dispute isn't over whether he called. It's over when, and what was actually happening on that water at the moment he picked up the phone. Except look underneath it. Dispatch confirms a call came in reporting that the boat was taking on water and sinking. But GPS data later pulled from that same boat shows it didn't actually leave Horn Island until roughly 4:30 that afternoon. About 30 minutes after that emergency call had already gone out. Investigators have said it plainly. If the story doesn't match what the GPS shows, there's a problem. So which is it? Was that boat actually in crisis, taking on water at the exact moment help was being called? Or was it still sitting at the island, and somebody was already shaping the story that would be told in the hours that followed? Now, to be fair, there's another read on all of this. Officer Brandon Tatum, who has personally sat down and interviewed several of Nolan's friends, including Warren, says put the audio in context before you jump to conclusions. In his view, it is close to impossible that the audio reflects Nolan being hurt or killed, because witnesses have already come forward saying they saw him alive after the boat left. He points to a text message from Katie, the girl Nolan was sitting with, in which she says she never actually saw him get on that boat at all. He points to footage his own team has shared publicly that shows everyone who was on that boat, and Nolan simply isn't in the frame. Tatum's theory: whatever people think they're hearing in the background might not be about a person at all. It could be about equipment. Gear breaking loose on a boat that's actively going down. And he raises one more point. The GPS coordinates tied to that emergency call put the boat right next to the island, surrounded by hundreds of other boats, hundreds of potential witnesses. If something dramatic had happened to Nolan right there, in that kind of crowd, he argues somebody would have seen it. That's a fair point. It deserves to be said out loud. But sources with knowledge of the investigation are now pushing in the opposite direction. There's reportedly evidence, including at least 2 separate witnesses, placing Nolan on Horn Island after his friend's boat had already left. If that holds up, it doesn't just complicate the account his friends gave to police in those first critical hours. It contradicts it outright. And then there's the alcohol. A Marine Patrol email has surfaced describing Nolan's alcohol intake that day as heavy. One more variable for toxicology to untangle once results come back. But here's a question almost nobody is asking out loud. Was Nolan the only one drinking on that boat? Look at the photos circulating from that day. The boy standing right next to him, his beer running down his chest. Another one is holding a can in his hand. Plain as day. Every one of these kids is under 21. None of them can legally purchase alcohol, except allegedly for Bart. Bart, were you the one supplying alcohol to a boat full of underage kids on Horn Island that day? Was it you? Because here's the thing. Even if toxicology eventually confirms alcohol in Nolan's system, that does not erase everything else stacking up around this case. It doesn't erase the reports that social media accounts connected to that day were wiped clean. It doesn't explain why. If this really is a simple, tragic accidental drowning, virtually everyone connected to that boat has since retained an attorney. And it doesn't explain why the public tip line, the number people were told to call with information, was reportedly being routed, at least for a period, not directly to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, but to the office of Judge Ashley Cole, whose own son was on that boat. Meanwhile, Mississippi's Governor, Tate Reeves, has gone after the family's attorney publicly, calling Ben Crump's characterization of this case a bald-faced lie. And the Sheriff's Department, on the very day Nolan's body was recovered from the water, had already told the public it looked like a drowning, before toxicology came back, before an independent autopsy had even been scheduled, before anything was confirmed. Let's be very clear about one thing, because it matters more than almost anything else in this story. If Nolan was drinking that day, that is not permission for anyone to have hurt him. Being intoxicated does not transfer responsibility onto the person it happened to. Full stop. That's not how any of this works. A young man having a drink at a holiday party is not, and has never been, a justification for whatever came next. And that's really the heart of what this case keeps circling back to. Not whether Nolan made mistakes that day. Every 18-year-old on that water probably did. The question is what happened in the gap between the last confirmed sighting of him alive and the moment his body was pulled from the water 2 days later. That gap is where every unanswered question in this case is currently sitting. So where does the actual science stand tonight? The state's initial instinct leaned toward an accidental drowning. Nolan's parents never accepted that explanation. Not for one single day. And the gap between those two positions has only widened since. The family brought in their own independent forensic pathologist, Dr. Roger Mitchell, and his conclusion, after completing a full independent autopsy, is neither drowning nor homicide. It's undetermined. Why? According to the family's attorney, Dr. Mitchell's examination turned up something nobody expected going in, an area of discoloration on the back of Nolan's head, deep enough to sit beneath the skin, that nobody has explained to this family. And critically, when Nolan's body arrived for that second independent autopsy, it did not include his lungs. It did not include his throat. Two of the single most important pieces of tissue you need if you're trying to confirm or rule out a drowning. Board-certified forensic pathologist Dr. Judy Melinek offers some crucial context here. Drowning, she explains, is what's called a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning you have to rule out everything else first. A gunshot, a strangulation, even a heart attack. All of those get identified as a true cause of death, even if the body is later recovered from water. And identifying that kind of trauma gets exponentially harder the more a body has decomposed. Nolan's body was recovered for days after he went missing, by the time that second independent autopsy took place. For more days had passed on top of that, refrigerated or not. That is significant decomposition, working against anyone trying to get a clean answer. Right now, the family's legal team is moving aggressively, using subpoenas to try to force tech companies to preserve social media accounts and phone records before anything else can quietly disappear. Investigators, meanwhile, say they've now interviewed dozens of witnesses who were on or near Horn Island that day, try and reconstruct a timeline that right now still has holes in it. The state's own autopsy is reportedly complete. Its results are still not public. An 18-year-old boy went out on the water to celebrate the 4th of July. He never came home. 2 days later, his body washed up on the shore of an island he was never supposed to be left behind on. His parents have said over and over that they will not stop asking questions until somebody gives them an answer they can actually stand on. If you know anything, if you were out on that water, if you saw anything at all that day, no matter how small it seems, call the tip line. This family says they will not rest until they get real answers. And we're not resting either. We'll be back the moment there's more.